Students, welcome to another Mr. Ness screencast. Today's aim is European imperialism in the New World. And here are your objectives. Please pause the video to look these questions over. And before you continue the video, make sure that you have your vocab sheet and something to write with in front of you. Get ready to copy some vocab terms and take some notes. In addition to the learning objectives, I also want to encourage you to think about historical context as you watch my videos. Take notes on important years or eras, people or groups, places, and ideas, events, and things. Also, think about analysis. Why is what you learned important? So we're going to start by going back to the year 1400. It's about 600 years ago. And you might remember from global history that in 1400 the world was divided into two separate regions. One region was the Americas, that's here on the left in this map. And the other region was Africa, Europe, Asia, and Australia on the right. There was a lot of trading and communication between people that lived within each region. For example, people in parts of both North America and South America grew corn, while people in parts of both Europe and Asia grew wheat, and they traded with each other. But people living in one region had no contact at all with people in the other region. In fact, in 1400, nobody in North or South America had had any contact whatsoever with anyone in Europe, Africa, or Asia for thousands of years. And so, the plants and animals had evolved differently in each region, and the people that lived in each region had developed entirely different cultures. European explorers would later call these two regions the Old World and the New World. Take a look at this map. These are still common terms, and you should know which parts of the world they refer to. For this class, it's important to remember that Europe and Africa are part of the Old World, while North America and South America are part of the New World. I'll come back to the Old World and New World in a moment. Let's return to the year 1400. This was roughly the beginning of a time period called the Age of Exploration. The Age of Exploration was a time when people from different countries in Europe began exploring areas of the world that they'd never been to, especially in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. I'm also going to call this era the Age of Imperialism because as the Europeans explored these lands, they also colonized them. They took them over by force. So between about 1400 and 1900, Europeans explored and colonized many different parts of the world. I just mentioned the word imperialism. Two other words that mean the same thing are colonialism and colonization. Imperialism, colonialism, and colonization all mean using force to take over foreign lands. And you can use any of these terms when you're writing about this topic. A colony is land under the control of a foreign ruler. During the process of imperialism, the lands that each European country took over became the colonies of that country. If you look at this map, all the shaded areas are places that by the year 1750 had become colonies of different European countries. Now let's look at some specific European countries that took over colonies in the New World during the Age of Exploration and Imperialism. Three countries that are most important in this class that I want you to know are England, France, and Spain. Looking at this map, you can see that the Netherlands and Portugal also colonized parts of the New World. The people who left these European countries and moved to the New World colonies are called colonists. And we are going to talk a lot about European colonists in this unit. I said that imperialism means taking land by force. So whose lands were the European colonists taking? In the New World, the people that had their lands taken we refer to as the indigenous population, where indigenous means the earliest known inhabitants of an area. And we refer to the indigenous population of North and South America as Native Americans. Native Americans were the people that lived in those lands before the Europeans arrived. Now let's look at how European imperialism in the New World affected Native Americans. Remember, the arrival of Europeans in the Americas was the first time in thousands of years that the Old World came into contact with the New World. This was a really big deal. And for Native Americans, it had incredibly devastating consequences in the form of deadly epidemics of disease. Because the Old World and New World had developed separately, people in those regions developed immunity to different diseases. There was one disease that the Europeans brought from the Old World that was especially important, and it was called smallpox. The Europeans had immunity to smallpox, so it didn't hurt them. And the colonists who came to the New World didn't even know that they were carrying smallpox germs with them. But Native Americans were not immune, and so millions of them died, about 90% of the entire population. I cannot emphasize what a huge change this was. Over the next few centuries, North America went from being a continent inhabited and controlled entirely by Native Americans to one that was inhabited and controlled mostly by Europeans. And for the Native Americans that did survive European diseases, life was difficult under European control. You'll learn more about that later in the unit. All right, it's time to review the learning objectives. Again, if you don't know the answer to any of them, rewind the video and look again. And I will see you in class. Bye, students.